In 2024, Xbox Game Pass is still one of the best deals in all of gaming. It's basically like Netflix for video games. You're able to go through a huge library of games and just try them out. Anything that you like, you can play. But since you're not having to purchase the games, there's really no commitment. And now on top of that, Game Pass is also available on PC. So if you don't have an Xbox, you can play most of these games on your PC as well. So I wanted to talk about my top 10 favorite couch co-op games on Xbox Game Pass. Let's start with one of the newest games on this list. It's called All You Need Is Help. This is one that I have not heard many people talk about, and that's a shame. This is a game fully built around co-op gameplay. In fact, there is no single player mode whatsoever. It's basically a physics-based puzzle game. The games that I can most closely compare it to would be maybe Death Squared and Snipper Clips, but from a top-down view. And like I said, you need to have at least one other player to start the game up, but you can play it with up to 4. However, if you are playing it with only 2 players, it's a little bit confusing how you get it started. You have to press Y and then go into dual mode. So there will still be 4 characters on the screen, but one player will control 2 characters at the same time, and they'll each be designated to a different thumbstick. It's a much better experience with 4 players. Each player is a different shape, and they look just like a Tetris shape, and each level has different objectives. Like one level, you gotta work together to navigate this yarn ball to the goal. And then in other levels, you just need to fit your shapes into their specific places. And each character is stuck with their own shape, so that adds some difficulty. Overall, this is a really fun, lighthearted co-op game that can definitely get heated though, if your friends are not communicating properly. Let's talk about Gears of War 5. The Gears of War franchise is known for its co-op gameplay. Every single entry has been loyal to the split-screen gameplay. And Gears 5 is probably the biggest game in the series yet, but this one you can actually play it in 3-player local co-op, where the 3rd player takes control of the robot, which is kind of an assist character. This might be my favorite in the whole series. The graphics are really impressive, the story is huge, and the classic Gears of War gameplay is all intact. So whether you're a fan of the series or not, you should definitely give this one a try. And you don't really need to play any of the games before this to enjoy this game. Legend of Mana is an action RPG that originally came out on the PS1, but recently a remake came out that's been ported to modern platforms. If you're familiar with the Mana series, Secret of Mana and Seiken Densetsu 3 are some of the best co-op action RPGs ever made. And Legend of Mana is another great entry in the series as well. Although I wouldn't say it's as good as those ones, it's still really solid. But the main step up here are the visuals. This is one of the best looking 2D games I've ever seen. It has this really beautiful, hand-drawn watercolor look. You can play through the whole game in 2-player co-op, but the second player pretty much is at the whim of player 1, and they're not going to have the same character throughout the entire game. They're going to switch up based on the story. This ends up working out pretty well, but I wish that it was a little bit more equal. But ultimately, Legend of Mana, it was one of my favorite co-op games on the PS1, so I'm really glad that it was ported to modern platforms. And having it on Game Pass means even more people can enjoy this game. Now how about Doom and Doom 2? Yeah, these are just the original Doom games ported to modern platforms. But the main benefit being is you can play the game in split-screen co-op with up to 4 players. And you can also do this online. Also, the visuals have been updated. The assets all remain intact, but the resolution is much higher. So now you can play these games in 4K. And of course, they're gonna run a lot smoother as well. This is a really great package with both Doom 1 and Doom 2. This might be an obvious choice, but if you haven't played it in split-screen co-op, I highly recommend you do it right now. Unravel 2 is a 2D puzzle platformer. It was just built around co-op gameplay. You and your friend each take control of this yarn character. You got a red one and a blue one, and you're tethered together by a long strand of yarn. This game takes a lot of communication. In order to get through any obstacle, you're going to need to work together. Sometimes you'll be swinging on the yarn while the other player holds in place. Other times you'll be pulling your character up to the next platform. And sometimes you're just going to need to be jumping in sync. This is really one of the best co-op platformers I've ever played. So if you haven't played it, definitely try it out. And it's a game that you can pretty easily pick up and play. And it's not too long, so you could probably beat it in a session or 2. One of the more recent indie games that I fell in love with was Cassette Beasts. Being a kid that grew up being obsessed with Pokemon, I always wanted to have a co-op experience. And I think Cassette Beasts is that experience that I always wanted. This game is clearly influenced by Pokemon in just about every way. It's a turn-based RPG where you capture monsters and then you train them to battle other monsters. A shameless ripoff of Pokemon, but I don't think it's trying to hide that fact. The whole game is music focused. So instead of actually capturing the Pokemon, you're going to use a tape to record them. As a music focused game, it has a great soundtrack. It's just nice lo-fi beats. And it's also cool that you and your friend can just wander the environment together, and there's no random battles. If you see a monster, you can try to avoid them. And then once you get into battles, you each take control of your own Cassette Beast, and you can choose what attacks you want to do in the turn-based battles. I also love the visuals here. It's got that HD pixel art style. Anyway, if you're a fan of Pokemon, definitely try Cassette Beasts. Let's talk about Halo Master Chief Collection. This is a huge collection. It includes Halo Reach, the original Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST, and Halo 4. And up until some of the more recent releases, Halo was a very reliable source for couch co-op gameplay. You could go through the entire story mode to most of these games and play through it in split-screen co-op. I played countless hours of the original Halo and Halo 2 on the original Xbox. Not only in deathmatch, but just playing the story mode. And to this day, I think that those story mode experiences are some of the best co-op experiences I've ever had. And the same could be said for Halo 3. I think those are some of the best co-op games ever made. If for some reason you missed the Halo games, and you're just now wanting to try them out, this is definitely a great option. Okay, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna talk about two different games here, A Way Out and It Takes Two. I just wanna talk about these games together because they're made by the same developers, and they're both games that are specifically made for co-op. You can't even play this in single player. So whether you're playing it locally or online, you have to have a partner. I've talked about both of these games numerous times on the channel, so I don't wanna get too into it, but again, if you haven't tried these games out and you have Game Pass, definitely try them out. Both of them are two of the best co-op games ever made. If you're into co-op gaming, these are pretty much the gold standard, both of these games. Another great one is Shredder's Revenge. Again, I've talked about this game a number of times on the channel, but that's because it's just really good. It's pretty much everything you'd ever want from a modern Ninja Turtles game. It has really great pixel art, the music's awesome, and this one even included 6-player co-op gameplay. And even though that gets incredibly hectic, it's something that everyone should at least try once. I hope that we get to see more Ninja Turtle games like this. It's truly one of the best modern beat-em-ups. And the last game that I want to talk about is the latest one on this list, Sea of Stars. I know that this game was originally a single-player experience, but as of November 12th, the DLC titled Dawn of Equinox was released. This update allows you to play through the entire story in 3-player local co-op. And this is what I've been waiting for. I remember when this game was originally announced on Kickstarter, and co-op was one of the features that they talked about. But when it came out, it was for some reason missing. So I'm really glad that they finally came around and added it. I love RPG games, and there's just not enough co-op RPGs. Everything about Sea of Stars is exactly what I would want in a co-op game. I love the visuals, the active turn-based combat kept my interest, and it's just a really long story-based game built around co-op. This might just be one of the best co-op games of 2024. So there you go. Those are my favorite couch co-op games on Xbox Game Pass. What are some of your favorites? And if you enjoyed this video, why don't you check out our video about the top 20 couch co-op games that came out on the original Xbox? And thanks for watching.